Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hi, Jenny. How are you doing? I'm glad you're in the room today. Thanks for joining in. Awesome. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm going to ping some people and then we will get started shortly, okay? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello. All right, all right. Well, I am going to go ahead and get started. As people come in the room, if we need to catch them back up, we will. But just to introduce, I am actually going live on YouTube as well. So anyone that is on YouTube, you can share your questions or comments and I will get to you as well. All right, so just to introduce to some and reacquaint for others, my name is Deanna Wosu of DeannaCamille.com. I know that's kind of confusing. Camille is my middle name, so that's my company name, DeannaCamille.com. So I am a corporate event planner. That's what I do for my day job. That is what I do 40 hours a week, day in, day out. I have been a meeting planner since 2007. I started in the association world and I have been on the corporate side of conferences, trade shows, and events for about 5 years now. In my full-time job, I do everything from coordinating meeting in terms of negotiating contracts for hotels. I am in charge of the marketing campaigns, audience acquisition, but a big part of my role is also the content and the agenda for meetings and conferences, and that includes soliciting and managing speakers. It's been a big part of my career ever since my early days post-college in association world. So I just started a course. I launched a course to teach public speakers how to pitch to meeting planners like myself, corporate event planners, associate event planners. There's a whole different industry sectors that a lot of people don't even know of that have meeting and event planners as well. So my goal is to really just make it plain how you can get in those spaces where you can get paid speaking gigs. Now I will add this caveat. If you are not currently a speaker, if you have no experience as a public speaker, if you haven't been doing this for a while, it's going to be extremely hard to get into this industry. I don't want anyone to think that this is so easy. I'm just going to jump into it. Public speaking is really easy. This is, it's a very relationship heavy industry, and it takes time to build those relationships. So I do want to make that really, really clear and evident from the beginning. But let's dive in. I want to talk about 3 things that I see really commonly in terms that keeps speakers, that keeps me from booking them for sure. And for those that are in my network, you know, I have friends and colleagues in my network that work for companies like Google, that work for Salesforce, that work for Pepsi, Nestle Purina. Like I have actually met these people too. They're not just LinkedIn connections. So it's not just, on my side, I work for a software company and we host events for contractors in the construction industry. But this is kind of what I've seen throughout different industries as well. So not just for my specific area of event planning, but just event planning overall. Number one, this is something that I see really, really commonly. Speakers don't have a defined audience. Especially for anyone out there who is a motivational speaker. I see this really, really commonly. The goal is just to kind of be all things to all people. I've got a speech and I can tweak it and deliver it to any crowd. And I'm going to correct you there because you can't. Not every crowd is going to want to hear you. Just because you may have a talk that you can deliver to any audience doesn't mean that your delivery style is good for every audience. It doesn't mean that the vernacular that you use works for every audience. Maybe you're from the deep South and you really don't connect with people in the North when you go to speak because your accent is really heavy. But when you're in the room with fellow Southerners, they may be right there with you when you're saying y'all and all those different things. So if you don't have a defined audience, it's going to be really hard for me as an event planner to decide when I come to your website, hey, is this a speaker that will work for my group? I think some speakers are really afraid of putting themselves in a bucket, if you will, and essentially disqualifying some clients. And I want to tell you that you need to do that. You need to make it really evident the people that don't fit, people who are not good clients for you, the audiences that you will not be the great speaker for. Because as an event planner, I want to see if you can fit my group. And when you try to sell to all people, you end up selling to no people. You end up selling to no one. If you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to no one. So when I go to a website of a speaker that does this, what it comes off as is very generic. It comes off as bland. It comes off as, I don't know either what you're speaking about. Sometimes your actual content is not super clear because your audience isn't super clear. And so it's really hard for me to decide how you would fit in my agenda. As an event planner, my goal is to create an agenda, to create a schedule that will get lots and lots of people attending my event. I want to hit my numbers in terms of number of people attending. I want to hit my numbers in terms of revenue. I want to please sponsors and exhibitors that are participating in my event. So it's really key that when I'm building that agenda, that it speaks to my crowd. It's going to motivate them to press that registration button. It's going to motivate them to fly, drive, take a train, planes, trains, and automobiles, however they're going to get to my conference. It's going to motivate them to pay for 2 to 3 nights at a hotel. It's going to motivate them to leave their family at home and leave work behind that they're going to have to catch up on when they get home. So when I'm building my agenda, the key is I'm trying to motivate my audience to move, right? I want my audience to book their registration, book their hotel room, and come to my event and have a great time. So when I go to your page to determine if you're going to fit my event, and you've got a very bland blanket statement there, you have actually disqualified me because you're not trying to speak to a specific audience. So that's my one tip. I feel that a lot of speakers really need to create whatever that one audience is. And you may have multiple audiences. There's some people that maybe you speak on imposter syndrome, just for an example, and maybe you have 2 audiences. Maybe you're really good at speaking to youth. So maybe your target is lower income youth that may be really smart, but they don't feel that they can go to college because of their background, because of their family history. So that could be one audience, right? Another audience could be maybe millennial women that are in high-end corporate positions. but they also deal with imposter syndrome. So you can have the same message to different audiences. That's fine, but you just need to make it clear in your delivery style, in your marketing materials, in the way you describe your talk, because the way you describe your talk is what I'm going to use in my marketing materials. So it needs to be speaking to that audience. It needs to be, hey, young kid that lives in the inner city who's really bright, but you've got a lot of family problems at home and you think you can't make it to college. I want to tell you that you have everything that all these other college students have as well. You have just as much ability as them. Don't feel that you aren't worthy enough of this, right? I just need to see that in your materials. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, raise your hand in the room. Absolutely. But that's number one. Tip number one is make sure that you have a defined audience. Make sure that you have a really defined topic, and those things are really clear when I come to your website. All right, number two. I see this again a lot. Public speakers who you may have a book, you may have a coaching program, you may have a membership program, you may have all these different products and services that you sell, and that is absolutely okay. I don't want to tell you that you should only be a speaker and that's all I need to see. Absolutely fine. As a meeting planner, I want a professional speaker who's an expert in whatever topic. And usually in order for you to become an expert in whatever topic, that means that you have had another career, another job, if you will, before you became a speaker. It's very rare for people to graduate high school, graduate college, and just say, hey, I'm going to be a professional speaker for a career. That's not usually the career path. Usually someone goes into a certain business, a certain industry, they learn they gain some learnings through their experience, and they start training, and they start giving advice, and they want to give back, right? That's usually how this happens. People are experts, again, in one area, and then they break off into speaking. That's pretty typical. So when I come to your website and I see that you've got products, you've got services, you've got consulting, whatever else that is, that's not an inhibitor by any means. So I don't want to detract from those of you that speaking is just one thing in your arsenal, but you also do many other things. That's absolutely fine. However, when I come to your website and I have to dig to find any information on the fact that you're a speaker, that's a problem. Your website is essentially, it is set up for your audience, but it is not set up for planning clients, if you will. So as a speaker, your audience are the people that, the butts in the seats. Again, like we talked about the two audiences that I use as an example with the last point. Maybe it's the corporate women who are millennials that don't feel that they should be at the table, or maybe it's youth, inner city youth that don't feel that they are worthy to go to college. Whatever that group is, you have targeted your website and all your materials towards them. So basically, you're selling them your books, your t-shirts, your merch. You're selling them your services. You're doing a really good job at selling your audience, the people that would sit and listen to your talk, right? But you're doing a terrible job at selling planners. We are not one and the same. The people that are in the audience listening to your talk are usually not the same people that are booking you, that are looking for you to fill their agenda, that are going to sign your contract, that are going to make sure you get paid. They usually are not one and the same. Okay? It's usually two different things. So it's really key that your website, even if you have multiple things, if you have multiple products, multiple services that you are offering, again, that is a-okay, but you need to make it really clear that you offer speaking services. So I need to see that like in your navigation bar. I need to see that on your homepage, a launch pad that's going to take me right to a landing page that gives me all your speaking information. Don't make me, as the planner, dig to find the information about you as a speaker. Make it really easy for me to get there, because I'm not buying anything on your website. I'm not there for anything but your speaker materials, whether that's your one sheet or your video. I want to see that stuff, and I want it to see it really plain. So make sure that you have that stuff prominently featured and really easy for the planner to find. Along with that, kind of point to be would be that when you are marketing and sending information out, whether that's the social media that you post, emails that you send to your list, again, it's just to your audience, to the people that would listen to your talk, that would be there to hear you speak. You are not doing anything to get yourself in front of meeting planners. Okay. As a speaker, as a meeting planner, I don't just follow public speakers. Okay. Unless you are speaking to something that affects my life personally, and unless I'm a potential audience member for your type of talks, I'm not going to be following you on social media. When I need a speaker, I go out and look for a speaker. So I need you to be looking for me and getting next to me where I'm at. So that means learning about meeting and event planners, really understanding who they are, where they live. Let me just give you this heads up. I get this question all the time. Well, how can I find planners and where should I be posting information? Meeting planners are all up and down social media. You guys are just not looking. I'm just telling you, we're not hiding. It's not that we are hard to find. It's that you're not looking in the right places, if that makes sense. I mean, you could put in a simple hashtag search, put in the hashtag meeting planner, and I guarantee you, you're going to find people that plan meetings. So that's what I'm saying. So it's just a matter of understanding who is the client that is going to book you for an event. It is not the person who's going to be in the seat. It is the meeting and event planner. So you need to understand who meeting and event planners are. You need to understand which ones you should be looking for, because again, we talked about knowing your target audience. That was the first point. So based on that, who are the meeting and event planners that I need to get next to, that I need to find? What group should I be targeting for my pitches? So yes, you need to go where those meeting planners are and then establish yourself as an expert, and then go forward from there. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 1 is make sure that you have a defined audience and a talk. And tip number 2 is make sure that you are marketing. You can market your product and service to your audience, absolutely, but make sure you are also marketing your speaker services to event planners. And it may be 2 different messages going to 2 different audiences. It may be that you've got a ton of potential clients, potential audience members on your Instagram, and it may be that LinkedIn is where you find more meeting planners. It may be that. It may be that you're looking at different channels. I'm going to give you this heads up too. Another note. Instagram, and this is a very sweeping generalization, so take it with what you will. But in general, it is going to be more of social event planners. So people that are planning weddings, people that are planning parties, even like some brand related events. So when I say that, I mean like if Ciroc throws a party and they've got their branded materials all over everything. Now, that's clearly a corporate event, but they're not going to have speakers there because it's a branded event, like a product launch type event. They're not going to have speakers. So if you're looking for conferences and meetings and those types of events, you're not going to really see them on Instagram to the level that you'll see the others. You'll see tons of weddings. You'll see tons of bar mitzvahs and social events, absolutely, because of the platform it's at. But if you want to see corporate events, association events, you probably want to be on LinkedIn, for real. You're going to see a lot. Again, once you know how to look for meeting and event planners, again, we're right in plain sight. We're not hiding. I'll drop my LinkedIn link, and you can find me. Look at my connections. I've got over 1,100 connections on LinkedIn, and probably 90% of them are meeting planners. So again, we're not hiding. You're just not looking in the right place. All right. So that was point number 2. Make sure that you are also marketing to planners and not just your audience. And point number 3, it's again, kind of in tandem with that. But let's say you finally find a meeting and event planner, right? You get in front of them, you're ready to pitch your talk, and you go in there like a used car salesman. You don't understand them at all. You don't understand their pain points. You haven't researched them at all. You just have a talk that you want to sell to this group, and you've got your talking points, and you're going to hit all of those talking points. And well, why aren't they booking me? Because you haven't done any research. If you had, maybe you would have realized that that talk probably won't fit that group, and that call actually was a waste of both of your time. Or if you had called, maybe you would realize that they are looking for panel speakers, right? They want someone to sit on a panel and answer questions, and you are shoving this 1 hour keynote down their throat. So, do you understand who you're pitching to? Do you understand what they need for that event? Do you understand their audience? So we talked about really targeting and understanding your audience, but maybe this is a new crowd that you're getting in front of. So your topic might be a good fit for these people, but you've never spoken to, like I said, my company services the construction industry. What if you've never given a talk to the construction industry? What research have you done to their, the audience that will be at this event, if they're new to you, how what you will provide them transformation, will provide them tangible takeaways that they can take into their day-to-day lives. So it's understanding the planner and their pain points and how they do their job and the things that they need, but then also understanding the group that you're pitching to as well. Another thing I want to mention, are you targeting business owners that host events? I see this a lot. So it might be someone who is a coach or a consultant. For example, I don't know if anyone follows Rachel Rogers. She's with Hello 7 Company, and she's got a new book out coming out called We Should All Be Millionaires. Great. She's got a coaching program. So it's like a membership-based program that you're in on a monthly basis. But she has also hosted events in the past. So she has had conferences for her clients and has brought in external speakers. Now, that type of event is completely different than a corporate conference, a corporate, what's the word I'm looking for? When you bring in your executives for training, like a corporate retreat, things like that, it's totally different. So if you're really primarily going after that type of crowd, your pitch process is going to be a lot different than if you were going after a corporate or association crowd. It's a lot different. You're going to see a call for speakers program a lot more, definitely on the association side. The process, who you're reaching out to, is going to look a lot different. So I just want to highlight that there are different segments of the industry, and you may be in the wrong segment for what you're offering. If you're offering leadership skills and how to be a transformative leader in times of hardship like this year, maybe you don't want to be talking to a mommy entrepreneur that's going to do a conference for all of her mommy followers, and they're going to get swag, and it's going to be a great event. They're going to have speakers, but all the speakers at that event are going to be mommy bloggers, or they're going to be pediatricians or children's health experts. Like, that's not the right audience for you to get in front of. Okay, so it goes back to point number one: define your audience, define your content, what you're offering. Point number two: make sure that in addition to whoever your audience is, whoever would be, the butts in the seats at the conference, you're marketing your products and services to them, but make sure you are also marketing to event planners. Make sure that you are also going out and finding them where they may be. Don't just put out content for those who already follow you and expect planners to just flock to you. It doesn't work that way. And lastly, understanding what the planner needs for that event, what they need for that group, and making sure that your pitch is customized for that. You're not just going in there like a used car salesman, trying to force what you have in inventory. You're going to sell it to them, even if it doesn't meet their needs. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want to come to the stage? Feel free to raise your hand. Looking on YouTube. Hi, Lindsay. I see you just joined the room. I'm Deanna of DeannaCamille.com. I just talked about 3 different reasons you're not getting paid to speak. One is talking about, excuse me, let me get some water. Excuse me. The first reason is you don't have a defined audience. So you have a talk that you feel you can give to any group. And in that talk, you try to sell it to all people. You try to be all things to all people. You have a really generic website, really generic materials. You have no way of defining yourself, defining your audience. Excuse me. You have no way of defining your audience. You don't have a really defined talk. It's very generic because you're a motivational speaker and I'm going to speak to this group and I'm going to motivate you. That tells me nothing. It tells me nothing about you. That tells me nothing about who you want to speak to. And it tells me nothing about if I should hire you. So the first thing that I see that happens all the time is that speakers don't have a defined audience and don't really have a defined talk. They just want to be all things to all people, and they end up being able to sell to no one because it's way too generic. It's not really defined at all, and it's boring for that reason too. The other things, tip number 2 that I discussed is marketing your product and service for the people who are going to be in the crowd. So the people that are going to be in the crowd are the ones that are already buying your merch, they're buying your book, they're buying your consulting, they're buying your coaching, whatever services that you sell. But when I get to your website, I have no idea that you're a speaker. It's not super apparent. You're not putting anything out in the world telling people that you're a speaker. Excuse me. You're not going out and finding where meeting and event planners are. You're just posting about your products and services and expecting meeting and event planners to know that you're a speaker. Or if we get to your website from some way, somehow, drilling down and diving through all the garbage and minutia to find out, how good of a speaker you are. Do we want to hear you talk? So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, the other thing that I see a lot of speakers doing that keeps them from getting paid gigs, and that's just not understanding the planner's pain points. That's not understanding meeting and event planners at all. That's trying to sell, like I said, like a used car salesman. You've got your talking points. You've got what you want to sell, and you're going to push it out no matter what. That's going to be what you offer to the world, regardless. Does anyone have any questions? You want to come to the stage? Anything you want to ask? I'm also offering free, if you want to come to the stage, I'll do a free review of your marketing materials and give you kind of some feedback for that. Hello, Lindsay. Good, how are you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, so the question, I'm just repeating, I'm going live on YouTube as well. So the question was, what if I have a message and I want to give it to 2 different audiences? That's completely fine. That's not a problem at all. I see that all the time where the issue for you is going to be, Lindsay, making it really clear in all of your marketing materials. So, it's going to be, how are you positioning yourself for those 2 different audiences? Like, they're very different. It may be that your website is just, hey, here are the talks I deliver, here's my speaker style, things of that nature. And then when you are reaching out to those specific groups, it's you giving your twist on how you present it to them. So maybe your website is just, hey, I talk about overcoming obstacles, and here's why I'm, a good speaker on that topic, because this is what I went through and here's how I overcame it. Like, you're going to give your flavor to that talk. You're going to give, and I'm going to see like, oh, she's a really good speaker. I definitely want to see, maybe she would fit my group or not. And then when you're on the phone with that meeting and event planner, then it's, oh yeah, this is what, bringing up specific stories, bringing up specific things that you have seen, have you observed that would be really relevant to that specific group. So that's the way you kind of find a way to, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of target those different audiences, if you will. So it's really hard, especially if they're very different, very divergent. It's very hard to put that on a website. Like, I talk to youth about not having limiting beliefs. I talk to women about not having limiting beliefs. Like, it just looks weird. So you just need to be really clear with your content. Like, that needs to be really obvious, and your unique spin on that content. Okay. And then I will either qualify or disqualify my group based on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still starting. I've not even completed the website yet. I'm working on it, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to, like I said, kind of brand myself that way.
Yeah.
Because, I went to school for speaking and everything, but to actually brand myself is something completely different from what I've done in previous years. I'm used to talking about other things and other people, but to share my story is new for me. So I'm just.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I hope that helps. I also want to make mention, I'm launching a course. It's called Planner Prospecting 101. And in that course, I teach how to find event planners. I teach how to pitch to event planners. I teach how to help figure out what your niche is in the beginning. Also, even after you've booked the gig and you are moving forward with the process, how to make sure that you get that repeat business. So I just want to highlight that. The link to that is in my bio if either of you are interested in that. And next week, I am offering a free webinar on 5 tips, to get virtual speaking gigs as well. So just want to highlight those 2 things. Yeah, let me know. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, we've got a couple people on YouTube listening in. Feel free to add a question or comment if you have one. I'm going to review the tips that we talked about one more time. So tip number 1, reasons that you are not getting paid speaking gigs. You do not have a defined audience. You are trying to sell to everyone, trying to sell everything to everyone, be everything to all people, and it ends up being that you are nothing to no one. You are very generic and bland in your marketing, and your content is not very clear. It's very muddled. I see this especially with people that are motivational speakers. They may just say, hey, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm going to help you transform your life. There are probably 5 million motivational speakers in America alone. And what's your unique spin? Like, what do you motivate? What transformation do you bring? Who are the people that you speak to really well? What's the stories that you tell that really drive your point home? Like, really make it plain, your unique twist on that topic. A lot of topics, my mom has a saying, there's nothing new under the sun. And actually, I don't think it's her saying, it's an old saying. But a lot of topics you see multiple places. But what's your spin on it? What's your unique taste on it? What, do you deliver that's different from every other speaker that presents on that topic, right? What is it? And once you define that, then you define, well, who is it that I can speak to really well on this topic? If I were going to speak from sun up to sundown on car tires, because I'm really passionate about car tires, if I were going to speak on that, who would I speak to about it? Who also would want to hear that talk? So you need to be really defined in who you're talking to. You need to be really defined in what you're talking about. Okay. And don't be afraid to disqualify people. Don't be afraid to disqualify events that are not going to fit you and you're not going to fit that event. That's okay. I think a lot of speakers are so afraid to put themselves in a niche, and that might cost them business over here, but that's not business you want. If that is not your target audience, if that is not your sweet spot, you don't want to be going after that business. So don't be afraid to disqualify yourself. Don't be afraid to put yourself in a lane that you feel, maybe you feel a little boxed in. You're like, well, I want to be able for any client to book me. Any client's not going to book you. So you need to pre-qualify that in advance. Otherwise, I'm going to do it for you. Just saying. If I get to your website and it's super plain and generic and has no brand name, a friend of mine, Quinn Conyers, she just posted a link on her YouTube, so you want to check that out. But she talks about the difference between presenting yourself as a generic versus a brand name. Like Fruity Pebbles, which is the brand name. Everyone knows Fruity Pebbles, right? They can charge a premium because they're Fruity Pebbles. But if you go to Aldi or Kroger or other stores, they've got fruit slices or whatever the off brand is, Fruity Rocks or whatever it is. And they might charge $1 for it. It's the same thing. But Fruity Pebbles has that brand recognition, has that brand name, so it's able to sell at a higher rate. They've pre-qualified, they have disqualified those that have a lower budget, but Fruity Pebbles is still kicking. They're still alive and running, just because they're more expensive doesn't mean that they've lost all business. It's just they cater to the business that they want to reach. So do the same with your speaker materials. Make sure that it's really clear what you talk about, your unique spin, your unique twist and flavor on that topic, because again, some topics are repetitive. Or your unique angle on that topic. And then also, who are the people that you're going to reach with that topic? Who are the people that are really going to vibe with you? The second thing is, if you are a coach, if you are a consultant, if you have product merch or whatever else it is that you sell, it's very common that there's a lot of things on your website, and that's okay. As a planner, I am perfectly okay getting to your website and seeing that you have a coaching business or a consulting business in addition to speaking. I mentioned this earlier on the call, but speakers are experts in some given area, some given field, and then they, I don't want to say pivot. That's kind of a curse word these days for planners. I'm not going to lie, but maybe they launch out into planning, and that's not something maybe they into speaking. It may not be something that they planned on, but because they're an expert in XYZ area, they can speak to those topics and maybe they're really engaging, they're entertaining, or they do a really good job at educating, and that's how they become a speaker. So when I get to your website, if I see other things on there that you're an expert on leadership, but if I also see that you're doing coaching or you're doing retreats with some very high up executives, people that are in C-suite offices, well, then I'm thinking, oh yeah, this person is definitely an expert on leadership skills, right? Because I see that they're dealing with teaching leadership on a regular basis. Having multiple things on your website is not a problem. What is a problem is when I come to your website and I cannot tell that you are a speaker, that I have to dig through multiple layers to find your speaker reel or to find your one sheet or to find whatever information it is that finally tells me you're a speaker and helps me make the decision if I want to book a call with you to talk about my event. I should not have to dig and dig and dig to find that information. It should be really apparent, really clear, really obvious that you're a speaker. Hold on one second. I was just got a message. So I just want to make that clear. Tip number 3. So we talked about make sure that sometimes you're marketing your products and services to your audience, but you're not marketing to the client. When it comes to events, the client is the planner. Okay. So I think that's really hard for some speakers because you may be selling coaching to these executives, but the planner is this 25-year-old girl who is an event coordinator for this association, right? So those are two completely different audiences, completely different strategies, but that's how you have to look at it. When you're going after planners, there's a certain way that you go to find planners, certain way that you pitch them and sell them your service as a speaker. That's going to be different than how you're selling your products and services and positioning yourself for your audience. Okay, so those are two different things. And event planners and meeting planners are going to be in different places. They might be in different channels. So we talked about that earlier. Instagram is really good for finding social event planners, really good for finding wedding planners, people that are in the live events industry. So think like concerts, festivals, things of that nature that may not have speakers. They may have entertainment. They may have stages with musicians, but they don't have speakers. Those are two different things. You want to be looking at meetings, conferences, trade shows. Like that's if you want to be getting paid to speak in a corporate or association sector. Those are the events you should be looking after. So those people that do those events are not going to be in the same place as the people buying your products, books, services, things of that nature. And then the last thing I want to reiterate again, make sure you understand your planners, the planner's pain points, okay? As a meeting and event planner, nothing grinds my gears more when I get on a call with the speaker and it's really apparent that they have done absolutely no research on me. Zero. And when that's apparent, it's frustrating because you're wasting time. And time is it's not an unlimited resource, right? So when I get on the phone with you, I need you to have already looked at my group. I need you to have already looked at what I'm looking for in this talk. Because if I reach out to you, I'm probably going to give you that information, right? I'm probably at some point in time in our conversation before we get on the call, you know that I'm looking for a moderator for a panel, or maybe I'm looking for a keynote, or maybe I'm looking for a workshop presenter, someone who can speak for half a day and do a hands-on workshop with my group. Okay, so don't come into the room like a used car salesperson trying to shove your keynote 90-minute presentation down my throat if I have made it plain and apparent that I just need a 20-minute speed session. I've done that for conferences where we had like a speed round where speakers only spoke for like 15 minutes and we had 5 of them back to back to back. We've done that too. That's something that happens at some events. It just depends on the industry. So know what the planner needs and know their pain points. Look at it as any industry. If I'm selling you a car and you're a mom with 2 kids, you've got a dog, I'm going to speak to your pain points. Your pain points are that you don't have enough storage space. Your pain points are when you get to the car, your hands are full because you've got the kids' stuff, you've got your stuff, like you've got a lot going on. So when I'm selling you this minivan, I'm going to talk about all the storage. I'm going to talk about the fact that you can get the trunk open by just putting your foot under the trunk and it's hands-free. I'm going to speak to your pain points. You got to do the same thing with meeting and event planners. Learn our pain points. Learn what makes us tick. Learn what we need for our group. So all planners are different, but all groups are different too. So you really got to understand who your client is before you get on the phone with them and pitch whatever it is. So I just want to make mention of that. I am going to drop in the comments here on YouTube. I have a free webinar next week on the 29th, and I'm going to be talking about 5 tips to get virtual speaking gigs in 2021. So I went ahead and dropped that link, that bit.ly link. So go ahead and check that out. Again, if you are interested, it is on December the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking about 5 tips to get speaking gigs, virtual speaking gigs in 2021. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to drop your questions. Feel free to raise your hand if you're in the Clubhouse room. Broadcasting live on YouTube, and I'm on Clubhouse right now. I recorded as well. It's got a lot going on today. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. If you want to look at your marketing materials, any of that. All right, I see Quinn, you just got in the room, so I'm going to review quickly. I'm not sure how much you heard or didn't hear, but the 3 different ways that I see speakers not getting paid speaking gigs. 1 is not having a really defined talk, not having a very defined audience. So you are too generic in who you are targeting in terms of groups. You are too generic in terms of your actual talk, what you're going to talk about. It's not really clear. You're not trying to define anything. Okay, yes, I'll invite you to the stage, Quinn. Yeah, so that's tip number 1. Number 2, is when you are marketing to your audience, the people that are will have the butts in the seats at the conference. So you're marketing your products, you're marketing your services, your consulting, coaching. You're doing really well at positioning that, but you have completely abandoned the speaking aspect of your career. You're not really marketing yourself as a speaker, and you're also only putting stuff in front of those who will buy from you. You're not going out and finding where meeting and event planners are and getting yourself in front of them where they are, because it may not be the same place as your audience. Your client is the planner, the audience is the one that comes to the events. Those are two different things. And then number 3, we talked about understanding planners' pain points and not trying to used car salesman, taking whatever you have, whatever speech it is that you're going to present, you're just going to shove it down their throat. You're going to offer this, and you're not going to research them before you get on the call. You're not going to research the group before you get on the call. You're not understanding the role, the life of a meeting and event planner. So your pitch is terrible because it is basically one size fits all, rinse and repeat. Same thing with your emails. It's like a spray and pray. You just send it out to everyone, and you have shown no understanding of what I need for this event or what I, as a meeting planner, just am looking for from you. So, okay, Quinn, go ahead, and you go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love the topic. I was trying to find you earlier, so I'm glad that you take me into the room. So, you are awesome and amazing, and I just appreciate what you are doing for the speaking community. Because there's a lot of speakers who have the questions that you're answering right now. So people definitely are speaking, but the problem is they're not getting paid. So the information and the knowledge that you're dropping is amazing. So if you guys are listening to her, please follow her, please connect with her. Anything that she has come up, gobble it up with a spoon, because it's the questions that people are, really asking, but they don't really have someone to answer them. So my question is this. I have been speaking, I have some experience with speaking, and the majority of the people that I work with are individual clients. But I am in a strategic effort to go after more companies and corporations. And you mentioned one of the tips about, not having a one size fits all. And in my individual clients, I work with a lot of Black women. And I teach them how to get money speaking, even if no one is paying them up front. And the majority of that's how they buy money. But I have had people reach out to me who want to get it up front figure honorarium. Now, my corporate talk is all about how women in leadership positions can make their voice visible at the table. My question is, when it comes to corporate, is it sexier to say women of color, so that's a buzzword, or let's say, teaching Black women in leadership positions how to make their voice visible at the table? Is that ostracizing me? Do you recommend going as, detailed and niche as Black women, or is women of color more acceptable to the corporate market?
Okay, so that was a really extensive question. So I'm going to try and rephrase it. I have a couple people live on YouTube, but your question is basically, if I am targeting Black women as my coaching clients and your one-on-one clients, when you go to pitch to corporate meeting and event planners to do a talk, should you be saying women of color? Should you say Black women? What's sexier? Okay, so I'm on your website right now, Quinn. And the first thing I see on your speaker page is, are you ready to empower your audience of entrepreneurs and business owners? So that's honestly the first thing I see from on your speakers page. Now, obviously, you have on the home page, turning virtual conversations into cash, Quinn's message to you. So honestly, the way your website is right now, that's not the primary thing that I see. That I know that because I know you, but that's not the first thing I see, is that you are now in your speaker reel, which I have watched before. There are plenty of Black women. So I see that as kind of your niche. I see that's the audiences that you vibe with really well. In terms of from a corporate level, what's sexier? I mean, I don't know. I would say, like I said, the main thing that it's showing right now is that your target is entrepreneurs and business owners. So if you want to be reaching C-suite level Black women that are, CEOs, CMOs, whatever level in leadership positions in corporate, you've already kind of disqualified them because you're telling me that you want people that own their own business, and that's not those executives. So that would be like my main thing is just if you want when you're speaking that you're speaking to like executive level women, Black or whatever, definitely make it plain that you're just speaking to women like business leaders. So that may include entrepreneurs and business owners, but you've already kind of precluded those that don't own a business, but they may be a 6-figure, 7-figure, high-level executive at ABC company. So that would be my first tip. And then in terms of women of color or Black women, if that's who you're targeting, it's really not going to matter what you say, to be honest, because if you're going after like a DEI crowd, diversity, equity, and inclusion, for anyone that didn't understand doesn't know what those mean, they are all about inclusivity. They want different voices heard. They want different voices represented. So the fact that you've proclaimed Black women is not a problem. Women of color is fine too. But if Black women is your sweet spot, then keep it. You don't necessarily need to what's the word I want to say? Corporate speak your stuff so that it sells better. I just think you just need to make it clear: is it entrepreneurs and business owners, or is it like Black women business leaders? So I would say that's probably more important than women of color versus Black women. Because again, if that's who you're targeting and that's who your audience is, I don't care what you call them, because if I've got a room full of Black women, then I'm going to book Quinn. Or if I've got a room full of, a multicultural women, I'm going to book Quinn. Like, I don't think Black women precludes women of color. That's just my take, but, other people may think differently. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, Quinn, I'm going to give you one more freebie, and then yes, we're going to set an actual coaching call up. But to me, your sweet spot might be a lot of larger companies. So like the Googles, Facebooks, Twitters, whatever, they have what you call like employee resource groups, ERGs. And especially now with the DEI initiatives, they've got groups just for by race, by gender, by both. So I think if you're reaching out to those people that are, they usually have employees that are like the leaders of those groups. To me, that's a great place to get in with that crowd, because you're going to get the people that is your audience, but you're also in those corporate spaces, and they're dealing with high level, leadership issues, and they're also dealing with, like what you said, having your voice heard at the table. Well, from a DEI standpoint, that's a huge aspect. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I see we got some more in the room. So I'm going to reintroduce myself for those of you who have joined in late. I'm Deanna with DeannaCamille.com. I am a corporate event planner for the past 15 years. I've been doing meetings and events throughout my career, I have been charged with soliciting speakers and coordinating speakers. That has always been an aspect of my role. Excuse me. I started originally in the association world, and I'm now in the corporate world. I've been doing corporate work for probably the past 5 years or so. In terms of what I do, in addition to being an event planner for a software company, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I also have a course. Next week, I'm offering a free webinar. It's a free webinar on Tuesday, December the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be giving 5 tips to get virtual speaking gigs. Yes, paid. There are plenty of people that are getting paid speaking gigs, even virtually. I was just reading an article the other day talking about the University of North Texas. They've had a speaker series over the past 4 or 5 years, and they've had several Fox News people there, some of the former and current anchors. They had Lou Holtz, who is a former Notre Dame football coach, and they were paying them $60,000 to $100,000 for in person, but now they've discounted it to maybe $30,000 to $50,000 virtually. So, I mean, if you don't think that you can get a virtual speaking gig for $2,000, like, I don't know how I can help you with that limiting belief, because the schools have the money, the corporations have the money, the associations have the money. Okay? So don't think that because we're in a pandemic, like no one has money. Yes, there are some industries that have been really hurt. There are some, I'm an event planner, so it's not lost on me the fact that I still have my job, because I believe at one point there was 12 million meeting and event professionals that were out of work. Related to the meetings and event industry, live events, meetings, conventions, travel. Like, we've been the hardest hit with the pandemic. So I don't want to make it like, everything's normal. Absolutely not. But there's still money to be made. There's still money at the table. These companies are spending money. These companies are hiring speakers. They're hiring moderators. They're hiring facilitators. In the virtual environment, a facilitator is even more important than in person, because they're setting the tone, creating that space for the other speakers who are on the event. And in a virtual setting, the attendee attention span is much shorter. So meeting and event planners right now are facing that task of, how do we keep our attendees' attention span when they're working from home? They've got 15 other tabs open because they're working. So, they've logged into this live event, but they've also got their email on the other screen. They've got their Slack channel on the other screen. And then they've got little Johnny, who's virtual learning, talking to them. So in addition to just the normal issues that we have with virtual events, because they're not new by any means, it's just we've never seen them to the level we have now during the pandemic. So in addition to those typical constraints of keeping the attendees' attention, because they've got so many other things to distract them, now we're doing it in a pandemic too. So we've got 10 other things that can distract them as well. So I just want to highlight that virtual meetings will still be at the forefront for 2021, even with the vaccine being rolled out. Meeting and event planners are not rushing back to have meetings in the first half of 2021. The real rebound probably won't start until Q4 in terms of face-to-face events. And most of our industry associations and industry experts estimate that it won't be until 2024 that we may hit pre-pandemic in-person meeting and events levels. So right now, virtual is definitely the leader. Hybrid is going to be on the growing, if you will. It's going to kind of be, I've got people on YouTube that are watching me. You guys on Clubhouse can't see me, but I've got my hands up. So you've got the virtual events are the number one driver right now. Then you've got like hybrid below that, and live are at the bottom right now. 2-3 years from now, it's going to look a lot different. But virtual and hybrid events are definitely here to stay. They may not be as popular 2 to 3 years from now, but they're not going away, if that makes sense. So it's really key that you position yourself for those virtual events, because like I said, they're not going away. So in my bio, I do have the link for that free webinar. Again, that's Tuesday, December the 29th and I'm going to give you 5 tips to get virtual speaking gigs in 2021. If you just want to book time with me, that's absolutely okay as well. My website is deannacamille.com. And it's $100 an hour for my consulting services. I'll be free to look at your marketing materials, give you just some feedback from a meeting and event planner standpoint. Or for the next 10, 15 minutes, I will take questions here in Clubhouse and YouTube. And that's going to cost you free $99. So if you have questions, you want to come to the stage, absolutely raise your hand and I'd be happy to do so. Hello, welcome, Christopher. I'm great. Thank you for joining. Awesome. Wonderful. Hey, Christopher, I'm not sure if it's me. I don't know if anyone else is having that problem, but you are breaking up. So I don't know if you're in a space with bad reception. Yes, yes. Yeah, no worries. Okay. So definitely, I don't get the sense. I'm going to repeat your question because I'm also going live on YouTube as well. But Christopher is speaking on mental health strategies. He has a passion for college age students, but also for clergy, for them having mental health strategies and self-care. Did I get that correctly, Christopher? And you're looking for basically how can you find those people and kind of really position yourself to grow these speaking opportunities. So I would say the first thing is look back at the people that have hired you in the past, that have paid you, and what is their role on campus? What is their job title? And you're going to rinse and repeat that at other campuses. So you're going to typically with the college crowd, you're going to be either looking in the student life area. So that student life would be like Greek life, residence life. So they usually will have programming, sometimes it's student organizations that lead those, but they have advisors that help them through that process, and the actual contracting is done through the college, obviously. So, for example, when I was in undergrad, we had a Black Issues Conference at my college that we hosted every year. So one year we had Dr. Jeff, our cousin Jeff, we had Omarosa. I can't remember who else we had. So we, as the students, would be making these decisions, but we had advisors who were actually negotiating the contracts, and we had people on campus that were actually doing that worked for the university. So you want to look in the student life area. You also want to look in the career services, because they will do programming for students. And I have a ton of just college friends, and they all seem to be in college student personnel. I would say that. So you could also look by those degrees. So when you're on LinkedIn, look for people that have like a college student personnel degree, a higher education administration type degree. Those type of people typically work on college campuses and in those environments, in the student life or in like career services and advising. So that's what I would tell you from like the university standpoint. From the clergy standpoint, you're probably going to want to look into like associations. And when I say associations, think like Southern Baptist Convention, the association for the different, what's the word I'm looking for? The different denominations. Now, whether that's Christianity, Judaism, whatever sect, I don't know if you're really looking at a specific religion, but if you're trying to reach clergy, then that's kind of a common place to start, would be those associations, because they do have larger meetings. You know, the Southern Baptist Convention has annual conferences and they have training for clergy. And so do a lot of the other denominations, especially in the Christian world. I can't speak so much to the other religions. I will say that at a lot of event planning conferences I've attended, they're represented as well. So you have people from, I can't tell you what they are offhand, but I know I've met people that work for like a Jewish related organization, or even Episcopalian, or what all the different denominations are. So that would be my tip to you in terms of where to look. Be by those job titles, those degrees, those offices on campus, and then from the clergy standpoint, look at their like national bodies in terms of their governing bodies for their different associations and sectors. That would be my tip.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it. That this is what you said, student life, because the organization I was working with, she works with the student life organ, so it was clear that the opportunity came. So thank you for everything. I wrote down some notes, and I look forward to this free webinar to get some more information. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm glad to help. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand. I see we have a couple new people, so I'm going to introduce myself again for any of you that have still been watching. Okay, Dr. Nell, just give me 1 second. Dr. Nell, just mute yourself for a second. My name is Deanna with DeannaCamille.com. I'm a corporate event planner. I have been in meetings and events for over 15 years. I have been in the corporate side for about 5 years. I originally started on the association side. I teach speakers how to get paid public speaking skills, paid speaking gigs, especially from the corporate and association sector. So I have a free webinar next Tuesday, December the 29th at 7 p.m. So you can go to the link in my bio. That webinar is about the top 5 tips to get virtual speaking gigs in 2021. 2021 virtual is not going away anytime soon. Virtual is here to stay. Hybrid is definitely here to stay. So that webinar, I will teach you different tips and tricks to get virtual speaking gigs for 2021. All right, Dr. Nell, I think you came to the stage first. Let me see what your question is.
Hi. How are you doing tonight? First of all, thank you for having the open room.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So where I am is I have not had any like official speaking engagements.
Mhm.
Everything that's been like a nonprofit that we were starting, and then my sister and I was just things to educate throughout COVID. But I'm a physical therapist, and that's what my doctor is in. And then I'm also branching into the life coaching arena for online mental health. I would love to, work with teens, like middle school, teenage age range,
Mhm.
sort of thing, to really be able to help guide and encourage. Now, I guess the biggest question is not even just setting up the speaking engagements, but like I don't even know what they would like, what is the appropriate thing to charge. I guess that really depends on you, because the price can be anywhere. But charging like some kind of price point, especially when you're first getting started,
Okay, I think you cut out a little bit, Dr. Null. I got your first question, which was about how do you determine pricing or charging if you're new? But what was the second question?
Also, not just like selling yourself when this is really something new that you're breaking into. It's kind of a new atmosphere, figuring out a pricing point, and just being prepared. So,
I would definitely recommend speaking for free. I'm just going to put that out there. Yes, this talk is all about getting paid gigs. However, in order to have paid gigs, you need to have testimonials, you need to have video, you need to have some of those things already figured out and locked in to market yourself. Can you hear me? Okay, good. You need to have some of those things to market yourself. So you may have to take a few free speaking gigs. And also, I want to highlight sometimes it may not be like a professional speaking gig. Maybe it's you're at church and you're talking to the youth group. Have someone record that. It doesn't necessarily need to be some high gloss, super edited situation, but you need to have something showing your ability to be a speaker, for one. And for two, you need to have some testimonials. So that's why I suggest if you are really just getting started, that you definitely speak for free to get yourself going, to get some practice. I would also highly suggest doing like Toastmasters because one, you may get some leads through that. You know, people may recommend you to people that they know, but two, just going to get more practice on a regular basis of speaking and get really good at it. Because before you go, you don't want to start pitching yourself as a professional speaker if you're still kind of learning your way, if that makes sense. Like I personally am very comfortable talking in front of people. I'm very comfortable getting on a stage. However, I have not really marketed myself as a public speaker because I haven't done it on a professional forum, if that makes sense. Like I've done trainings, I've done presentations at school. Like I'm very comfortable doing it, but that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily a professional. Like there's two different things. So I would say if you are trying to do this on a professional level and actually pitch yourself to get paid gigs, you're going to have to take some free ones. You're going to have to offer your services where needed just to give yourself that quote unquote exposure. I know that's kind of like a four-letter word these days, especially after the whole Tiffany Haddish situation. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so you definitely want to be positioning yourself as an expert in whatever that topic is. So I know you kind of talked about like mental health and from the youth aspect, like high school students. So find ways to display that you're already doing that work. Again, maybe you're working with kids at church, you're working with kids in the community. You need to be displaying that on your social media, on your website. You need to be showing that you're already doing that work. You're an expert in this arena. And then you need to be getting close to the people that are booking those things. So for your standpoint, you want to be in schools, you need to be talking to administrators, people on school boards, superintendents, principals, vice principals. That's the people that you need to be talking to because those are the decision makers in terms of bringing in external people to a school to present in front of these kids. So yeah, yeah, exactly. So you already kind of, because you're in that arena, you're already meeting educators and administrators on a day-to-day basis. So it's probably going to be an easier start for you than for someone else that doesn't even have a network to begin with. In terms of pricing strategy, when you are to that level and you are ready to start pricing, it's really hard to give a blanket, here's what's average fee, because it's going to vary. It's going to vary. Like if you're in the education sector, I would believe based on my knowledge, it's going to be on the lower end, maybe in the $500 range to start. I'm spitballing here, but on the association corporate side, I mean, really typical what I've seen kind of as a start. What I've seen as a start for those who maybe don't have a lot of experience or they are speaking on behalf of their company, so they're not getting paid to speak. This is part of their job. Travel is included. So if it's not something that's close to you, getting travel included is usually the first step. And then the next step is maybe like a 500. 500 is really low. I would say probably the lowest I've seen in terms of honorariums is maybe in the 750 range and then up from there. And that's just really going to vary on your experience and the industry. Some other industries may start at the 1250 level. So it really just depends. But again, since you're in the education sector, my gut says you're going to be on the lower end of that spectrum.
Okay.
No problem. Is it Chantel or Chantel? Good. I have a cousin that is Chantel, and I had a girl I grew up with in church that was Chantel, and they both spelled it the same. So that's why. Yeah, no problem. hmm Okay. hmm Absolutely.
You kind of answered my question with that as far as the lowest it could go. I'm looking to go into a genre or area of expertise, which is self-care
hmm
for women. With that, I was trying to decide, do I need to market my social media around it? So, for example, right now, it's basically set up like a blog, but if I'm going into this new area, do you recommend creating a different page specifically for that, or could I just add that into my existing content? That's the first question. Second question is, would it make more sense to make these changes as far as marketing goes after I have like solid data in the format of an ebook or a physical book? If that makes sense.
So I'll take the second one first because that's the easier one. So the question was, should you wait until you have an ebook or more materials available to really start positioning yourself as a speaker in the self-care arena, like changing your your content or your topic? And I would say no. There's plenty of speakers that don't have books, that don't have any type of materials they sell. They're speakers. I mean, they might have services, consulting services or things like that, but they don't think that a book is required to be a speaker. There are people that can write that are not good speakers, and there are good speakers that cannot write, and vice versa. So I from a planner's perspective, a book is not a requirement. It's a nice to have if you're going to be offering that to attendees, whether you want to do a signing at the event or, some speakers, they want to give the book away, but they also want to get, their costs covered. So when they go to negotiate, they'll say, my fee is $5,000. And then I'm going to charge you the wholesale rate for, my book so that you can give it away to your attendees. So like they'll give the book a discount on the book to the event planner. So that's kind of like a reason that they would want to hire them. But you don't need one. So I wouldn't say that should preclude you from starting to pivot or market yourself in that arena. And then the second question in terms of how should you address the content? I mean, to me, it depends on how big your social media presence is. I mean, if you've got a lot of followers, I wouldn't want to start over, um, especially if it's related to what you're already doing. That's not a hard thing to kind of just switch your position, if not position, but your main messaging that you're putting out. I personally, if I were you, I probably wouldn't start over. If you have a lot, if you've only got like 10 followers and you want to switch um, you want to switch your messaging and your branding, then absolutely, because it's nothing lost. But if you already have a presence, I wouldn't start over. You can just start making that message clear. A thing I want to mention, which I talked about with the 3 tips, was your audience that's going to be sitting at the event and listening to you speak is not the same as the client. The client is the planner. So your audience may be middle-aged women who are divorced, but the planner may be this 25-year-old guy who graduated from Berkeley, who's the event coordinator for that association. Okay, so the things that are on your social media that are kind of positioning you as an expert, that's going to be all about your audience and the people that may book services from you, may buy your book. But in terms of you reaching out to planners, it may be a totally different avenue altogether. So you want to make sure that you're selling to your audience and you're showing that you're an expert in that field and that your marketing reads that. So when I come to your website, I see, oh, she's an expert in self-care with middle-aged women. And when I go to your social media, I see that you have a lot of middle-aged women that follow you and engage with your content. Absolutely. You just want to make sure that you also have that you're a speaker and what you speak about when I get to your website.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
No problem. I'm glad that helped. Is it Cameo?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for calling me up to the stage. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you, thank you. So, I know you're getting ready to close, so I'll make this quick.
Mhm.
I am releasing a book. I'm a goal coach, and I've written a book about releasing your inner greatness, giving your goals 100%, and living your best life. And the book is for pretty much anyone, but my target market is female women and female entrepreneurs. So I would like to start, promoting my book when it comes out in 2021, and I would like you to lead to speaking opportunities for me. I have another business called We Are Fun, and we encourage girls to know that they're definitely one to be made. So I've gotten a lot of speaking events from that area, and I have footage and pictures of me doing those events.
Mhm.
I've also, during the pandemic, done some virtual events, so just, speaking through Zoom or whatever type of event it is. So when you're saying have like proof on your website, is that enough proof to have a recording of, a snippet of a Zoom that you were on, a conference Zoom? Is that appropriate at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would definitely try to make sure that I know some of those recordings can be a little grainy if you've been on Zoom or on 24 or any of these other platforms. The recording doesn't necessarily look as nice as it did live sometimes, not all the time. So whatever you can pick from that shows the best, then absolutely I would include that because, excuse me, virtual is kind of the primary leader right now with events. So it's very much virtual followed by hybrid, like hybrid starting to grow as more and more people are doing face-to-face stuff. But even with hybrid, it's basically like, for example, Meeting Professionals International, that's an association I'm a member of. They usually have an in-person event in the summer that's about 3,000 people that attend, and they hosted it in November. They pushed it back because of the pandemic, and it was a hybrid event. So I think in person they had about 600, and then online they had another 2,000 people. So what you'll see with the hybrid is that the in-person attendance is much smaller than the online attendance. So from that standpoint, I'm just saying hybrid is not going away, virtual is not going away. So you want to convey in your marketing materials how you can speak to both audiences. So if you have anything that's hybrid, that's great because if you can show that, hey, I'm taking care of the people in front of me in person, but I'm also speaking to the people that are online. If you can find ways to show that, that's going to definitely help you be more marketable. But just virtual is fine too because it's definitely going to be the predominant until probably at least the third quarter of the year.
Okay. And one more question.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that you offer private one-on-one sessions,
Mhm.
$100.
Mhm.
With that, I'm wondering if I can book a session and we can talk about the way that I can pitch in order to acquire speaking events. Is that something that you would help me with, or is it something else?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna add another thing in. So I'm doing the free webinar next week, which is all about just virtual events, getting virtual events, but I also do have a course. So that course is going to launch in January 10th, and it's going to be run on Facebook, but it's going to be video lessons, worksheets, and then live group coaching sessions. That course is only 147. So you'll have access to me through the course. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to present your marketing materials. You'll have a little cohort that you can take the course with, and you'll have all those materials for lifetime access. Or you can book me for an hour for $100, and we'll talk about anything and everything you want to talk about. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But both of those links are in my bio. So for the course, as well as the free webinar next week, or you can just go on my website, deannacamille.com, and book time with me for one-on-one time as well.
Okay, perfect. I did sign up for your webinar, and I will look for the information about the course.
Perfect. I hope that helped. Yeah, thank you all for signing in and joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I am going to be shutting down the room, but be sure to follow me here on Clubhouse if you're not, and follow me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I am on LinkedIn, and I am on Facebook, either Deanna Camille or Deanna Camille 20 on all those platforms. So thank you all for joining. And yes. Oh, wow. It's so rare. One of my sorority sisters, her daughter is Camille. So Camille's are rare. Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank those of you who join me on YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a direct message or follow me, like I said, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's Deanna Camille or Deanna Camille 20. Thank you and have a good night.